Everybody loves money, and everybody knows, especially if you're handed the short end of the stick, that you need to do everything in your power to save as much money as possible, even if that means having to buy stuff that's on sale or on clearance or buy something that's off-brand. Now imagine having to do this as a general manager for a Major League Baseball club. Now, Billy Beane was a general manager for the 2002 Oakland Athletics, who were definitely in the ruts because they had lost 3 key components to their recent success. Those players included first baseman Jason Giambi, outfielder Johnny Damon, and relief pitcher Jason Isgenauer. This left a huge gap in the Oakland Athletics depth chart, which Billy Beane's job was to fill. Now, Billy Beane had a tough time because he was working with about $41 million, which is a lot of money, but when you compare it to other teams like the Yankees, who have about $125 million, there's quite a difference, and you can see where players want to go, especially if they're going to get more money. So Billy Beane needed to come up with a plan to get players to play for his team for the low. Now, the Oakland Athletics scouting organization was not with Billy Beane on this. They wanted to use the old method, which was to go out all over the country and view players' athletic ability and their 5-tool skill set, including hitting ability, mental toughness, speed, quickness, and strength. Now, GM Paul DePautista, who was recently acquired by Billy Beane as his assistant general manager, was able to work with Billy Beane to come up with a new method called the Moneyball method. Now, this method was quite different than the old scouting method, in which they didn't look at players' athletic ability. They looked at if players could hit the ball and get on base. And those 2 components were the key components that were lost in free agency. Now, the Moneyball thesis, stated by Kevin Greer and Tyler Cohen of Grantland.com, is simple. Using statistical analysis, small market teams can compete by using assets that are undervalued by other teams and selling ones that are overvalued by other teams. Beane and DePautista thought that on-base percentage was an undervalued component, so they started looking for players that would get on base. And now people that were walked often, it would count as on base, but those players weren't paid money to get walked, so they were usually sold for a little low on free agencies. So Billy Beane was able to acquire quite a few players that would just get walked, which helped them get runs and led to quite a bit of success. Now, in about 2004, those players that would get walked started getting attention, so they started getting paid more. But in Billy Beane's case, he saved a lot of money and was able to catch on earlier before all this happened. Now, you can't do all this with just a regular mindset. And Paul DePautista was a Harvard grad who was able to help Billy Beane in crunching numbers and pointing out the statistics that helped the team win. Now, DePautista was really good at finding young players or players that were on minor league teams, such as a relief pitcher, Chad Bradford. Chad Bradford was at the time a minor league pitcher for the White Sox, but he was on the minor leagues because of one reason only. He threw funny. So Billy Beane, who didn't care how he threw and just cared about his ERA, was able to take him onto the team. DePautista also found players like Jeremy Brown, who was a fat, slow catcher. But in his case, he was able to hit home runs. And when he wasn't hitting home runs, he was getting hit by the ball. And that means you get to first base. And that means you get on base, which made him a good player for a high on base percentage. Now, Billy Beane's method led him to acquire many of these different players. And one major component to that team was an old guy named Dave Justice. Now, Dave Justice was an old guy. He was a recent All-Star, but people viewed him as washed up. But Billy Beane wanted to juice every little bit of skill out of him, but mainly use him for his leadership ability and his ability to bring the team up, especially when this young team lacked confidence. Now, Beane and Di Podesta were able to haul in these type of guys, but a lot of people said it was dumb luck. Is it really dumb luck? I guess you could say so, but did it work for him? It obviously worked. I mean, him in the Oakland Athletics and the manager at the time, Art Howe, were able to win 103 games, which is quite a good record, especially if you don't have all-star players like they once did. Now, other teams such as the Cleveland Indians started taking this method and using it for themselves. Unfortunately for the Oakland Athletics, they are still technically playing Moneyball, trying to figure out how to win a championship. And Cleveland is using the same method. They got closer, but they weren't able to win a championship yet. So as you might have predicted, this knowledge was very widely known. So people were trying to acquire Billy Beane as their GM by sending him a lot of money, offering him a lot of money, but he turned them all down, and he ended up being the general manager for the Oakland Athletics up until about 2016. Paul Di Podesta, on the other hand, was with the A's till 2004, in which he signed with the Dodgers as a general manager, and then up until 2006, he signed as the special assistant for baseball operations with the Padres, and then he was hired as the vice president of player development and scouting for the Mets in 2010. As of 2016, Di Podesta moved from the MLB to the NFL, and he is currently the chief strategy officer for the Cleveland Browns. He is credited for acquiring assets like Odell Beckham Jr., who was once a great wideout, but ran into some injury problems. So he acquired him for a low price, and he is doing wonderful things for Cleveland right now. Now, this method is still used in a wide variety across many different sports, including football, as you heard of, but also basketball and overseas and soccer. And it shows that the strategy still works and is widely known and widely used to this day.